Fellow Toastmasters and guests, according to Scientific American, cars and trucks are responsible for about a quarter of the greenhouse gas pollution that we create in the United States. That's 1.7 billion metric tons per year. And here in California, according to the California Air Resources Board, cars and trucks are the single biggest source of greenhouse gas emissions in our state. What can we do about this? Obviously, our addiction to driving is polluting our atmosphere and killing our planet. Now, I'm not advocating that we all just stop driving. It's not like we're gonna lock ourselves at home, order out for pizza every night, and just sit around watching Netflix all day. Don't think that's a realistic solution. But I do have a compromise. We can stop driving gas-powered cars and instead drive electric vehicles. Now, electric vehicles don't create any emissions. They literally don't even have an exhaust pipe. Many governments have recognized this, and in fact, very recently, the Netherlands, India, China, Norway, the United Kingdom, France, and China, oh, I said China already, have all declared that they will ban the sale of gas-powered vehicles within the next 10 to 20 years, and will only allow people to buy electric vehicles. General Motors also has said that the future of the automotive industry is all electric. So clearly this isn't just some passing fad. Now, okay, fine, if you're in France in 20 years, you have to buy an electric car. What about here in the United States today? Does it make sense to buy an electric car today? Can you picture yourself driving an electric car? Well, the good news is there are many advantages today for consumers to buy an electric car. Number one, I'll write some of these down since we don't have slides. Number one, no emissions. Like I said, they don't even have a tailpipe, so you're literally putting no pollutants out into the air. Number two, save money on gas. You never have to go to a gas station again. You still have to put electricity in your car, but electricity costs are much lower than gasoline costs. Number three, low maintenance. Electric engines and electric cars are much simpler than gas-powered vehicles. With an electric car, you never have to do an oil change, you never have to replace a drive belt, a spark plug, no cooling system flushes, none of that. Your maintenance costs are much lower. And then finally, here in California, you get a little carpool sticker you can put on the car, which allows you to drive in that lane even if you're the only one in the car. They used to give these out for regular hybrids like Priuses. They don't do that anymore. Now you have to get onto the next technology bandwagon, which is electric vehicles and plug-in hybrids. So given this, we should all be driving electric cars. Is there anyone here today who actually does drive an all-electric car? Like a Chevy Bolt or a Tesla? Neither do I. But I want to, which is why I did the research on this speech. So what are some of the reasons? And I want to hear from you guys. Are there any disadvantages? These are the advantages, but any drawbacks? Yeah.
Initial cost, I was considering it. That's the biggest drawback.
Great. Brian?
Convenience.
In what way?
You don't, I don't know where all of the, I know the Teslas have electronically, they would tell you where the stops are. Mm-hmm. But yeah, if you're someplace where you can't plug up and you have to sit there and wait an hour or two to charge up, that's just inconvenient.
Okay, gotcha. Val?
I had heard something about the batteries being really expensive and maybe not environmentally friendly. And then also, when you have an electric car, you have to really plan how far you can go, like Brian said.
Like this one. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Well, it's more about the no emission thing. You know, even though there's no emission in a car, you have to create the electricity, and that may not be emission free.
Okay, great. All right, those are all very valid concerns, and I've looked into these, and we'll like to address some of them as we have time here. So, let's see. Manuel, let's talk about yours first, the total emissions. So very true, the car doesn't generate pollution, but the power plant that you're using to charge your car still does. And it's kind of hard to compare apples to apples, but the U.S. Department of Energy has done just that. And I can't show you the graphic, but what they've measured is the full well-to-wheels pollution impact, carbon footprint. So all of the pollution that you create by actually mining coal or oil out of the ground, the pollution from the electric power plant, the pollution from your gas-powered car, and they compared that for electric vehicles versus gas-powered. What they found is true for an electric car, your emissions isn't zero. It's actually, for every mile that you drive an electric car, 200 grams of CO2 per mile. However, for a gas-powered car, it's about 440 grams of CO2 emissions that you're putting into the atmosphere for that whole well-to-wheels life cycle. So even though it's not zero, you're still cutting your carbon footprint less than half than what you would have with a gas-powered car. Charging stations, and a couple people were concerned about this. So definitely a concern. There are about 112,000 gas stations in America right now. You can find one in almost any corner. Here, charging stations for electric vehicles, there are about, got the number here, 18,000 locations. So, I don't know, about 15% as many, much less. But that number is growing. Every year, there are thousands more being added every year because more and more people are buying electric cars. Companies are starting to build up this infrastructure. And what's important to remember is that your behavior with charging is a little bit different. You don't have to have an electric charging station on every corner like you do with gas stations, because when you get home at night, you can just plug in your car in your garage. You can't do that with a gas-powered car. You actually have to go to a gas station. So for day-to-day driving, if you're driving 100, even 200 miles a day, your electric car can do that without recharging. You get home at night, plug it in a few hours it's ready to go again. Now, road trips, you talked about having to plan road trips. That's where you're not going to go knock on someone's door and say, hey, do you mind if I plug in my electric car? So this is where superchargers are really important. A supercharger is a station you can pull up to and charge your car in about 30 minutes. You can add another 100, 200 miles of charge to your car. And these are not as common today. There are only about 2,285 locations worldwide. So about 1 in every 10 charging stations has a supercharger. But they are, I mean, if you can't see the map here, but this is where all the superchargers are. The whole West Coast is littered with them, the East Coast is littered with them. So you do have to plan ahead a little bit, but no matter where you're going, you should be able to find a supercharger easily within the 100, 300 mile range of your car. Actually, in Sacramento, there are a handful of them just in the Sacramento area. So definitely does take a little bit of planning today, but they are building more and more of these every year. Let's see how we're doing that time. Oh, are you timing, Bryant? I think I might be completely over.
You were so engrossed with
That's all right. So I'll wrap it up. I wish I had time to talk about cost and battery replacement too, but I'll just summarize by saying that there are a lot of advantages to buying an electric car today. Actually, the total cost of ownership, even though the initial cost is a little high, because of the lower gas costs, lower maintenance, it's actually cheaper to own an electric car for 4 years than a gas-powered car today. And I know I can certainly picture myself driving an electric car, and after this research and information, I hope that you can too.